There's an uphill mental struggle of just showing up as a beginner. I want people to actually see that when you go somewhere, that fear is gone instantly. Mm-hmm. You have nerves, instantly making connections, and there's such a warmth that I just think is electric, and it ignites a fire once you start something.
First of all, you have to detach from ego. The only way you'll ever get there is if you're brave enough to suck at something new. If you're not okay with being a beginner at something, then you'll just go your entire life without trying these activities that might absolutely set your soul on fire, and you're just sit on the sidelines because you're embarrassed or you're scared to look like a beginner, when that is the whole purpose of getting to expert level. And you don't have to be an expert at everything you do. Hey everyone, welcome to the Get Real Show. We are here today with Caitlin, who is a startup founder of Yebbo and the Happy Hobbyist, and really just wanted to have yourself on because I feel like we have a lot of parallels in our story and a lot in common, and I absolutely just love the message of what you're doing and everything that you've created thus far and what you plan to continue to grow here. So thank you so much for coming on and getting real with me today.
Honestly, I'm obsessed with you, and this is so special to me, so thank you for inviting me. I feel honoured and can't wait to get into the weeds and get real.
Of course. Well, really just wanted to start off with you explaining a bit about your platforms and what it is that you're doing and why you decided to start these.
Totally. I would say you have to go a little bit further back to the beginning to understand the need within me for why I've created what I have. And as a young person or a child, teenager to this point, I've consistently found that there was a gap for me personally, even just through activities and pressures in society and institutions within schools that led me to always feel slightly estranged, a little bit of an outsider maybe, when it comes to finding things to do with people and actually feeling that community, which is kind of contradictory because I've really put myself in the mix of things. But that is my nature because I like to be proactive, but I know that it's actually really challenging to do that. And as somebody who definitely thinks a lot of kind of anxiety-driven thoughts, it's definitely it's a natural bias that I have to be proactive, which I know a lot of people don't get to do. So just because of how they feel, and they might get restricted in, I guess, a cycle of not wanting to participate. But because I found that consistently throughout my childhood and adulthood, I wanted to create a platform to help people get involved, start new things, and show them what it's like to be a beginner at something. Not just be the expert in the room. Like everything you see online is somebody's journey, but now they're amazing. And then it's like you probably want to go and do their run or go and do their activity, but you're gonna feel the pressure. Like, am I gonna even be able to keep up? Like, how am I gonna? I'm just gonna fall over if it's a sport, or I'm not be able to hit the ball. I'm not be able to throw the ball far enough. You know, if it's a team sport, or it's like if you're gonna play chess, like, oh, I'm just going to lose against everyone. There's an uphill mental struggle of just showing up as a beginner. And I want people to actually see that when you go somewhere, that fear is gone instantly. You have nerves, but instantly you're making connections. And there's such a warmth that I just think is electric, and it ignites a fire once you start something. It helps loneliness, it helps just community, it helps you find your actual purpose. And your purpose doesn't have to be the things that you did when you were a kid. You know, finding something new can start at any point.
100%.
And that is why I started the Happy Hobbyist, which is a social media profile, a TikTok profile, YouTube, whatever. And that is demonstrating beginning new things. And whatever background I have, I'll be trying things for the first time, and I'll usually be going alone. I don't need to go alone, though. I don't think it's about that, because it should just be about going and trying the new thing and seeing if you enjoy it. And Yebboh is something that I've recently been working on, and I'm so excited about it. There's a lot that I can't really talk about with it yet, but it's in the making, and it's very much going to be a community-focused place to drive and help people find things to do.
Yeah, that is amazing. And the second I heard about it, I was quite intrigued, because that's exactly the whole journey of what you just described is my exact feelings around trying new things. And even how you said at the start, like when I was younger, I very much felt like an outsider, but to everyone else probably looked like I was straight in the mix, right in the middle of everything, but felt like almost I was on the outside looking in. So I think that's quite a common feeling. And that's exactly why I like to have this platform and talk about things, because you realize these things that we think is an individual experience is not, and is oftentimes shared. And exactly what you said about just going with the flow and going to try to do something and being okay with being bad at something at first. First of all, you have to detach from ego, which is really difficult for people to do, especially when you have a high achieving attitude and you want to be a high achiever. But the only way you'll ever get there is if you're brave enough to suck at something new, is a quote that I've seen before that really has resonated with myself, because a lot of us have not been put in environments where we can try the hobbies that might be best suited for us. Like, I came from a beach town. Surfing was a really big hobby. I never really surfed. I honestly wish I did. But
Nothing's
I was
stopping
never,
you now.
exactly. I can a little bit, but like I never was in the realm of the mountains or anything like that. I love the mountains. That's something I learned later in life. So if you're not okay with being a beginner at something as an adult, then you'll just go your entire life without trying these activities that might absolutely set your soul on fire. Totally. And you're just sit on the sidelines because you're embarrassed or you're scared to look like a beginner, when that is the whole purpose of getting to expert level. And maybe you don't even get to expert level, but you just like it. Yeah. And you don't have to be an expert at everything you do. So that's why I really, really found it quite interesting.
There's always been something inside me that has said the same sort of, it's a self-conscious feeling where you know you don't want to be amazing. Like, you aspire to be the best at something, or the best at your ability, but you also don't know where anything will go. And I think one of the main things that made me, literally ignited the fire, was I was that friend who was sending messages to the group chats asking, does anyone want to go to see this really cool art exhibition? Yeah. I don't know anything about art. But do you know what? After I had a breakup and I felt like the relationship really kind of constricted me in a lot of ways. And coming out of that, it was like this feeling where I was like, actually, I can go and try all of the things that I have just let myself not do, that I always wanted to do. Yeah. And so I bought the easel, I bought the paints, I bought palettes, I bought acrylic paint, and sat there and just looked at some things that inspired me and gave it a go, and actually just kind of interpreted and made it my own thing. And I'm so proud of the things that I've done. And they can just be blotches, they can just be, but I would sit there for like 8 hours and get so into it. Yeah. And that's a solo thing. And but you could go to a class or find, an actual guided thing on YouTube that would go through the whole process with you. So that whole small concept of, like, say, art, go take your friends to an art exhibition. I constantly got a no. Just even surrounding yourself with people who say no to your ideas and like numb your creativity, and doesn't mean there aren't people out there who won't go with you or who will go with you. There's always going to be people out there, but it's just hard to find them who are available at the right time. We're busy, we're growing up, we've got things to do. Everyone's got their own plates that they're spinning. And, I would say it's easier in the city, where typically people are a bit more like, and access to things is actually easier as well. transport, whatever, schedules. People aren't driving as much. So there's things that lend themselves to having a more proactive / activity-driven lifestyle. But I would say that really inspired me because it was frustrating because I would sit there afterwards and I would be too late to go or too late to get the ticket and too late to make the class now. And I was just sitting there so annoyed I didn't just go, kicking myself. And I'd just be like, I really regret that. And then I'd have to wait a week or whatever it is, or else it was the last show that it was on or the last exhibition day that you could see it. And I just found it so frustrating. So that's why I think that Happy Hobbyist as a community is something that I needed and I still need. So if you're interested in being part of a community like that, feel free to look it up and honestly get involved. That is what it's all about. Let me know the things you want to try. And hopefully we can all go to these events together and give each other that support network to say, I know this person's never been either. And we can go and be embarrassing together. Yeah. And that's okay.
Yeah. No, I love that. And I feel like I've had very similar experiences because that's also me saying, let's try to go to this High Rocks. Let's go to this meditation ceremony in Brazil. Let's like just coming up with these crazy ideas. And exactly what you said, we're all adults. We all have different schedules. And then I find it so rare to even find someone that wants to do different things. And all I want to do is different things and cool things and just make the most out of life. And I want to see every corner of this world. I want to do every activity. I want to be a beginner 1,000 times over again. And that's so rare to find in people. So I think that creating an app and a community is absolutely genius because where else would you find them? I've come across a couple friends over the course of my life and I'll tell my friends like, and I believe it, that they're 1 in a million, 1 in a billion, but it's very difficult to find. So really taking technology and taking community and our social media that has a lot of downsides to it and using it in a positive light to bring people together is absolutely amazing.
100%. Like my girlfriends, somebody asked them the other day, or there was a meme and it was like, describe these images, describe your friends.
Yeah.
And there was like, your one friend's the organized one who plans everything. Your other friend does this. And the thing that they all said that I was the hype girl.
Yeah.
Because I am relentlessly positive.
Yeah.
And like, I just think I can take rejection extremely well at this point, you know, where people won't get involved or go with you to things. I'm just like, actually now I'm so okay with that because actually I'm so comfortable in my skin and as me. And it's taken me a long time to get there. And you have days where you just feel like crap because of kind of there's that loneliness battle or like that question of not enoughness where you don't know, is it me that they don't want to go with? You see people who propose their ideas and everyone goes, you know, and that's like a popularity contest at that point.
Yeah.
But knowing that when it's an activity and you've suggested it, you know that you're the one with the incentive and the drive to go. And even if someone says no to you, you'll never regret, I don't think, going to something. Yeah. And actually taking that first step. I've never, ever looked back. Even if it's something that I didn't want to do again, typically I've always come out of the other side thinking, I might give it another go. It might not be my forever thing, but I'll probably go again because I really enjoyed the learning process and seeing how it was done. Like pottery. Oh my God, I am so bad. I took one of my girlfriends, Natalie, and she was like a natural, and I was just like, I kept stabbing it with my fingernails. It was going everywhere. And my hands went so cold by the end. I was like, this is not going well. But at the end of the day, it's like, I am kind of like a fidgety person. So I think maybe there's things that align to your skill set and there's things that you'll be way better at than somebody. And then there's things that you won't be so good at. But I would think I try and drive myself towards the things that I'm also not that good at now to build my strength in those areas. Like tennis, wow. That's been I mean, I would say it's a steep learning curve. I'm still at the bottom of the hill. Yeah. Like I'm not there. I'm approaching it nearly towards the bottom of the hill. But yeah, it's been a definitely remains an uphill battle, and
Yeah.
I am determined.
Yeah. But that's the thing. You're on the hill.
100%.
And I saw something that said about how critics remain critics because they're on the sidelines. We're the ones putting ourselves in the arena to be critiqued. And I think building yourself up to a point to be comfortable enough to do that is so important and part of just personal and self-development. But I was exactly that way too, where I used to be afraid to ask people things, or I've always really struggled with communication up until extremely recently when I became comfortable with myself through years and years and years of self-work where you are okay with rejection. But before that, it's always walking on eggshells and wondering what they're going to think about you. And I just got to the point where I looked around and was like, you know what, one day we're going to be dead, and I sure hope that I put all my cards on the table, and I sure hope that I leave everything on the track essentially, and people can do what they want with the information I put out there. But I'd rather be fully myself and have people not align with you than try to hide or formulate yourself into the perfect version of these people of what they want. Because at the end of the day, who are these people that you're trying to impress? Do they have anything you want? Do they have any attribute that you want? Do you respect them as a person? Like, who are these people that we get in our head over or try to formulate ourselves into a watered down version of us just to have them accept us in some capacity?
Well, I would say I absolutely couldn't believe it when you hear you speak now, and I'll die on that hill. Like, you are incredible and an inspiration. And this is my first podcast, so it's another one of those firsts for everything. And I can see how much of a natural you are, and you're a testament to the fact that if that's the way that you feel, then practice really does make perfect. And it's inspiring for me to see that.
Well, thank you. And also, I am not a natural. So if you look back at my beginning podcast, I was absolutely horrific, voice shaking, like couldn't speak. And that's the thing, like I just wanted to do it. So sometimes you have to push past the uncomfortability. So thank you for coming on here. And I think that's such an important message, and that I've learned in my life is sometimes the message that's most important to say is when your voice is shaking, when you're not ready to say it, when it's scary to say something. Those are the messages that are most important to get out there.
Agreed, appreciate it.
But I know you spoke about saying how you have felt like you're not enough. And we briefly touched on it before the episode, like how that's so common in general in the human experience, but especially in the woman experience. Where do you feel like that comes from? And do you feel like that's still something that affects you?
Definitely. That is, it's such a big topic, isn't it? But I've found that throughout my life, I've been very adaptable and remain adaptable, but very forthright in who I am now. I'm adaptable in a sense that I like to solve problems, but I'm very much more confident in me. But I remember when I was like in primary school and being so self-conscious about why I was trying to be best friends with these girls, or like why the boys wouldn't let me play football with them. And I wasn't very good, but I had no time to practice, with the people at school. So yeah, I've consistently found that I've been very critical of myself. And I think when you are younger, there's all these attributes that institutions kind of drive you to aspire for that you now don't have. You don't have this artillery of technical weapons and like mental weapons at your disposal, physical weapons, whatever the physical and brain confidence that actually you've even as an adult now, when you reflect, you're like, right, well, I mean, that was a load of like rubbish, but you realize that they're in an absolutely amazing position, just having loads of things at their fingertips and having all the opportunity in the world. But it's at that point, you just like a deer in headlights constantly. You're always looking at what's the cool thing, especially with how social media and like news, the way that things are so attention grabbing, that things have to move so quickly. You have to keep on trends. You have to like have the most fashionable stuff in beauty, in every sense. And that is a real unnerving thing in every sense. Like even as an adult, like I know my mom's friends, and like you must have it as well with your parents' friends and stuff. Do you ever see your family friends and they go, oh, you must know about all this stuff? And I'm like, oh, you're amazing. Like, I look up to you. And, you know, they show that vulnerability in the exact same light. And I think there's so many things that aren't done in a great way to protect young women's and men's mental health. But when there was actually quite a lot of issues around what was going on in the media through like the early 90s, even before that, from the start of media and newspapers against women at that point, like realistically, and all they cared about, it was over-sexualization of women and disrespecting them based on, I mean, literally the one thing that absolutely blew my mind was Michelle Obama literally getting judged for like as the first lady, you know, and like they just didn't care that she was like Harvard graduate and like a lawyer, and it just blows your mind that all they cared about was what she was wearing. Where is the integrity in that news? Like, and why is that what you want people to look at and think about them? No,
100%. I think that media today is extremely tough, but media back then, every tabloid, you're 5, 6, 7 years old girl, and everything you see is Britney Spears gained 10 pounds, that fat pig, like Jessica Simpson, like is rolling off the earth, like just the crazy stuff they would say. And obviously that was
it's horrific.
Peak eating disorder time is when all the stars had extreme anorexia. I've been very open that I had very bad eating disorders growing up, and it's just so crazy, exactly how you said, how it positions you in a self where you felt like you had to over-sexualize yourself. And that's something that, I really did want to get onto, because it's a journey that I've gone through, like trying to find the balance with. And I still think that it's something that's difficult because, I grew up very much in a world where I was told your worth resides in the opinions of what male validation. So my brain was very much sculpted towards you have to try to get men to like you through sexualizing yourself. So there's periods of my life where I look back at pictures and I'm absolutely humiliated. Like I cannot believe what I was posting. And it's very embarrassing, but that was what I believed at the time that I was supposed to do. And I believed that that was something admirable or something good to get likes. And it was at the age of when Instagram was coming up. And then I went the polar opposite way. And I was wearing like turtlenecks all the time and a bit going too much the other way, where's the line where I'm a feminine woman and I have a woman's body and I'm confident, and you want to be able to show off yourself and be confident in yourself and not feel like you have to be in a high neck t-shirt 24/7, but also not over-sexualizing yourself or making it about that. So I think it's a very fine line and difficult line to find, and something that is very hard to feel, because you almost feel like, at least for myself, where I try to be a very respectable person and character, and I try very hard at everything I do, and I'm primarily in male-dominated environments, but then you feel like if you wear something sexy, you're like, did I just take away all of my merit? Like, am I now looked down on, or looked down at a joke, or not respected in the same light? So I find it very hard even to this day, to be honest.
Likewise, I think, so I have a full-time job outside of the work that I'm doing outside of that. Sorry, this is kind of talking more about my side hustle. Yeah. And the totally resonates with me about kind of wearing the wrong things at the wrong times, or, you know, and you do that because you kind of, there's a need for some sort of attention, or you think it looks good, you trying to kind of stand out, but also feel beautiful. And like, you're already beautiful enough, but maybe you've not been given that attention like you deserved, you know, in that as well. Same where I remember when I was like a teenager, my style, it was literally like a chameleon, where I'll be dressed, you know, your style changes so much. And I was like a total goth, or like hoodies, baggy trousers, whatever. And then the next day you're just in sporty stuff or whatever. But it was just, it's not your identity. It doesn't matter what you wear. Like, wear what you feel great in. And also, I actually am so all over people being bold. I love it. Like, I'm so into just people dressing kind of for themselves and feeling actually powerful in that energy. But it's that piece where you have that chip on your shoulder when you look back and think, actually, I was dressing for someone else at that point, not for me. And I notice it, in so many points in my life that I've been like that. And I've just, you know, hats off to you. Like, I think you have your own true identity. And I think it's really hard for people to know what their identity really is, but also, fashion doesn't define your identity. Yeah. Your identity is how you want to be. And you can also change as many times as you want. It's that whole mindset piece that you are really passionate about as well, where if you want to change tomorrow, you go ahead. Like, feel free. That's you. Yeah. No one else could be holding you back. They may give you opinions. They may change how they think, but do you. Yeah. And that, nothing should actually hold back your growth, whether that is defined in style, whether that's defined in attitude, whether that's defined in a business sense, whether that's defined in creativity. It's how you want to be and how you want to spend your time, and make an impact for yourself is what's important. Yeah. Well,
I still feel like thank you for saying that, but I still feel like, because I want to be completely transparent, that it's something that I struggle with, because how you said, like, sometimes you just don't know. And I feel like I've gotten to the point where I say, oh, I don't care what people think about me. And I do. But the one area that I do tend to question is when I post something that is a little bit more sexual. And then I'm saying, are people going to think I'm slutty? And it's crazy that you would even, that's the conclusion. Oh, I'm in a sports bra because I just ran 10 miles and I'm doing this insane workout. But the first thing I'm thinking is, now I'm going to be perceived as slutty. And it's the one thing, because I have like a preconceived issue with before, that is the one thing that I'm hypersensitive about, and that I think is really, really hard to escape.
You would be like some alien if you didn't care about what people think. Like, I am I'm just saying, they're like, yes. Yeah. Like, it just makes so much sense to me. Like, I will sit there and dwell over like what to post, what you know, you go through how does it look? Is it too much? I remember, so I have this thing where I've had exes that were like, you can't post that, or, you know, you can't, you know, and I'm like, I really have to like think about how I even feel about that, where it's like, okay, but are you saying that but I like the photo, and then you're like, well, okay, why don't you like it? And you kind of want to get more information around what it is that's making somebody uncomfortable about something, but then you're like, actually, but if you think that, then other people are going to think that. And then I'll go round in my head about something, because I'm like, actually, I don't want to give out an impression that isn't like right, because, you know, but at the same time, I kind of like that energy. Well, the reason I say it is because I'm inspired by the level of energy that some people have, where they just give zero, and they just be themselves, post what they want, act any way they want. But I feel like it's so natural to have a form of like self-conscious, self-esteem, like fear of rejection, fear of being judged.
Yeah.
And also not wanting people to just give you, like, troll you and do, like, say horrible things or think a certain thing about you. And you know that that's not you, right? That's the thing. You don't identify with that. So you don't want people to think that if that's the conclusion that's stereotypically drawn if you post a bikini photo of yourself or something, you know, or you're wearing a sports bra and, oh God forbid, you might have some cleavage, like, because you have a chest as a woman, like,
exactly,
you know, you don't have to, you could be part of the itty bitty titty committee, but you can still wear a sports bra and that's okay. You know what I mean? It's like,
exactly,
no one should be judging as to, and I love those body confidence profiles as well. I think they're really helping the kind of movement of, like, no shame, because it shouldn't be.
Yeah. And I think it all stems back to feeling like you're not enough. But if you break down all of that, you will never achieve being enough, because there are so many different lanes and so many different opinions of what enough is. Some people might think that the ideal woman is someone who's confident in their body, can wear something sexy, still get the job done, all that. Someone else might think that that actually takes away from her value as a woman and that they should be doing X, Y, and Z. So if you're striving for what is enough, and there's no real definition of what enough even is, we just made up enough in our head at the end of the day. So I think it's really important to recognize that and really do self-exploration on yourself and realize, where are my actual boundaries? What do I feel comfortable with? And then go with that.
What would you say, where's your kind of enough sort of tribe? Because I think the one thing that social media brings out is that, like, although controversial opinions and things like that are triggering and, like, create the conversation, it also allows people to have, like, big feelings, big expressions and, like, statements. But then there's always that hype group who is like, yeah, I'm with you, you know? And what's the sort of line that you found yourself at that feels true for you so far?
I think realizing that you can have several different parts of yourself, and that you don't have to be, because I'm an extremist, I've been very all or nothing in my life. That's something that I struggled with, is that, oh, well, I'm trying to fit into this box, and at the end of the day, I don't fit into any box. And that there are parts of me that are quite masculine, energy driven, and there's parts that I want to be super feminine. And there's so many different parts of people, like the both of us, that are trying to do so many different things, that you just have to realize that you can be versatile, and that just trusting yourself and trusting your intuition as to, is this truly myself, or am I doing this to try to fit some type of parameter, has helped me.
One thing that's always, like, intrigued me about that is, like, say when somebody asks you about yourself, is, like, that whole, what's your identifying factors?
Yeah.
And I think that's such a hard, it really resonates with the Happy Hobbyist, because that self-development, like, it's almost like you can gamify, like, so people start to talk about their childhood, what they did when they were younger, like, oh yeah, I used to be a tennis player, or, like, and then they played for, like, county tennis or whatever, and they actually did that before they were 18, and now they're like 35, and you're like, okay, cool, but what else, what are you doing now? And then it's more about work, and, like, what's your work personality? And, you know, I guess it's like, how, I think it's a really interesting thing to think about, like, how do you identify yourself in a short bit, and what's the sort of things that you kind of want to explore that you feel are good for you? Because I think, well, actually, do you think you could do that? Like, sort of, what would be your sort of identifiers? Like,
I think the main things that I do that could be identifiable to me, I do think, because I'm so openly sober, people think of that a lot when they think of myself. They think of the fact that I do a lot of athletic endeavors. People in work know me as an extremely hard worker. But at the end of the day,
I back that.
At the end of the day, I would want to be known for just trying to be a good person and trying to be the best version of myself, because exactly what you said, our identities change at different points of our life. And sometimes we can't take our hobbies with us. If you have your knee break or something happen, you can't have your whole life fall apart, and you have to be who you are inside. And I would just want to be remembered at the end as someone who helped people believe in themselves and made people realize that they can truly do anything, and that is just the main message that I'm trying to push, and that's what I would want to be known for.
I love it.
What do you feel like yours would be?
I'd say I'm a 32-year-old British woman, and there's definitely some things around like unpacking British quintessentialism, but then again, I would say I'm really extroverted. So I'll go more, say, around characteristics, because I used to do the thing like, oh, I used to dance when I was younger. And then funny thing is my dad was a professional ballet dancer.
Wow.
So that's like quite, and that's kind of one of mine, I would say, is like something I would sometimes say to people, because it's quite it's unusual, it's unique. And I found it interesting growing up like that. And yeah, I would just say sporty, but outgoing and kind, empathetic. So I'd go more down personality traits, and then things that I do, like work-wise, I'd say I work in technology, I work in wealth management, and then you kind of see where's the things that you would have wanted to say, but you don't have expansion on yet, you know?
Yeah.
And there's definitely things, like I studied maths at uni, and I'm really proud of that. And like, I think it was one of the things where thinking like more and more as I got older, that maths and philosophy are so linked, especially from like when you start getting really into literature and things. It's like it's all over everything, you know, where you kind of think about how things work together, why do patterns make sense, what behavioral patterns, everything kind of comes down to how things are created, and mathematics is a massive part of, like, I guess, the way people think and logic itself. So yeah, that's a really big identity factor for me.
That is very interesting.
What else? I'd say probably I love to try new things. And recently I became a solo skydiver.
I think is the
niche.
Coolest thing ever. Yeah, I'm very jealous. Very, like, it's inspiring at the end of the day. It's extremely inspiring when I found out you did that. And that's what I think we're both trying to build here, because I learn, you do that, I think, oh, I wonder if I can figure out how to do that. And then it trickles down, and it's a domino effect. And that's what we want to get out of people. But what made you really want to do that and go about doing that?
This is one of those funny stories. Somebody said to me, what did you want to be when you were growing up? And I was like, oh, you know what? I always used to say, I want to be a skydiving instructor. Or like I'd have something really weird, like go to space, or like, I don't know, just something quirky. And, or like, yeah. So then I went home that day, and I was just thinking, like, why? I've never even jumped out of a plane yet. Like, I haven't even done a tandem. And that was what I used to want to be as a kid. And I don't even know what that feels like. Yeah. And I was just kicking myself. I was like, why don't I know? So I'm going to Google it. So I just Googled, looked it up, found a local place in the UK. And just to do the initial course, I was like, I mean, it's not cheap, but I wouldn't say it's as expensive as I thought it was going to be. And it was like the Band-Aid ripped off. It was a 1-day classroom course. And then the next time you go, you will jump out of a plane solo. So literally the first time I actually jumped out of a plane was solo, but with 2 instructors, and you just have like a pad on your arms and legs, and they're just holding on. So the first time I landed, like, no one's with you. You have a radio on your head, and you have to land by yourself. And that, for me, was like, wow, this is a big deal. It was just an amazing, like, mind-opening experience to do that, and to realize that, like, that doing something huge can happen at any time. Mm-hmm. Like, I went to Nepal when, I think it was in 2019. Honestly, one of the most mentally shifting experiences I've ever had from a grounding perspective, and just it makes you just pour with love of people and community and beauty of nature and how simple life can be, and like the hospitality of the families and the Sherpas and the kind of hostels and hotels along the way. It blows your mind that these are like full-blown buildings that are there, but it's just the warmth and the kindness that I just find is so fascinating and brings so much growth, where it's taken away from all of these like trigger response things that we react to with digital age, and like being in a what would we call it, like in a developed society with constant access to media, and like this is a podcast, so hopefully people are like, this is an interesting conversation to listen to, as opposed to, you know, consuming something that might give you self-doubt or like critique yourself. You know, this is you want to be a positive, like you mentioned before, like that bringing light to the world, trying not to take away from people, trying to always add, but always also adding to yourself, making sure that you feel like you're giving your best to what you can do. And like one thing that really I've found super valuable in my life was the Sea Cadet Corps, which is something that I do as a voluntary service in my local community. It's a naval-based sort of organisation for young people. I went when I was 12 and I did not look back. Like that shit saved me. Like, oh my God, if I did not have some sort of like outlet for my tomboy energy, and like I was on a shooting team, I was like kayaking, I learned to sail, I was a sailing instructor because of the Sea Cadets. That got me to the US when I was 19 as a sailing instructor on the Chesapeake Bay in Virginia.
That's incredible.
Like, all because of the Sea Cadets.
Yeah.
Mental. And it's just these little opportunities in life where you can get so much out of something. And just from, I love the idea of like a leap of faith. Like, do you have any sayings that you love like that?
Yeah. I always think like, do something before you're ready, or jump before you feel ready. All of that,
So
I feel like
hard,
is so
though.
applicable.
Do you not think where like we all have this, like we'll only jump with all the other things around us that are still lined up. You know, like you can jump, you can't jump in every single direction every time.
Yeah.
You know, there's got to be a degree of comfort in some parts of your life. Like whether it's having that stable relationships, then you feel like you can take that next step in your career, whether there's loads of things that people mention when that comes up, where it's like, I took a leap of faith. But what were the other things surrounding you that were like, what was the things that enabled you? Because there was a lot of people around. There's a lot of things in your life that gives you stability enough to mean that risk is less critical to those factors. They'll stay the same. They're stable. So I always think that there's things that you've got to appreciate around the leap of faith that you take. Yeah. And this is like a massive change point in my life. Like I feel like I'm in a transitionary, like it feels like I'm on a rocket ship at the moment. Like realistically, just everything feels electrified all the time. Like I'm even struggling to sleep. I'm just so gassed. But it's just like everything else is so lined up, you know? I feel like I have to give thanks as well to feeling ready, feeling comfortable in a lot of other things, like appreciating my relationship, appreciating my friends, appreciating that I feel more comfortable for myself in so many other ways. Confidence, you know, is so important. And, you know, just putting yourself out there like this is hard. Yeah. And what would you say has been like a good leap of faith for you?
I think several situations I've taken the leap of faith, and I think what you're saying, like you're never, at least I've seen with myself, I'm never going to feel ready. So, but kind of what you said at the beginning of the episode, once you get there, wherever you're going, then you realize, oh, I should have left an hour ago. I should have left 3 weeks ago. And you realize that you should have just been doing that. I have like small examples of with what I think is incredible with your skydiving far less
Nothing is less.
Yes,
Never say that.
yes,
That's
but
not
just
true. Redact.
but I didn't go by
Get Trump's lawyer
myself. Just a different
everything.
thing, not less, just different thing. I always wanted to go skydiving too. I think there's just something so attractive about letting go and being in the sky and just letting go of everything. Like that is the ultimate, just facing your fear, I think. And I had always wanted to do it. And very similar thing, how we mentioned too, how you want to go on these endeavors sometimes and people don't want to go with you. So I wanted to bike to the Key West. So I ended up I'd never even been there. I just said, okay, I'm going to bike. And when I was biking there was about 20 or 30 miles left and I saw a skydiving thing. Like, you know what? I should just go skydiving. So I ended up, the next time I went, because that it was closed at the minute, I figured I'm just going to go because I'm sitting there. And that's the one I think negative. It has both sides to it about Instagram. Like I'm sitting there watching all these awesome things, people jumping from the sky, people bungee jumping, all this stuff, thinking like, oh, I wish I could do that. You can do that. Every single thing, and this is a main message I want to get across, every single thing you see someone else do that you want to do or you wish you can do, you just can do it. So I just went out and I just did it one day. It was a random day of the week and it was amazing. And I did the whole thing by myself. I did the bike by myself. I did the skydive by myself. And it was so, so cool. And that really opened my eyes to doing something like that. But I've also taken the leap of faith, like moving to New York, moving to Miami, career shifts. And I always think that there's always a sign that I see, but also I think signs are everywhere you look for them. So I have a personal debate with that I do feel like there's always a sign, but if you're looking for a sign and you feel like you're not seeing it, don't have that as a deterrent of not doing that because it's just yourself looking for something.
We need to just take a minute because you have not had the biggest congratulations. You've completed an Ironman since this podcast, since your last podcast.
Yeah. Thank you.
Like, what? Like, I have a leap of faith. Oh, you haven't done that. Like, literally insane. Like, that is aspirational to me and inspirational in so many ways. My gosh. Yeah, you really motivate me in so many ways like that. So hopefully I can be like you one day, like literally like that.
That's
but I'm going to practice and that's what it takes.
Yeah, that's the thing that you can, there's no reason that I'm different in any capacity with that. And that's what I try to stress is that I'm not special in any way and that you just have to want to do something, put in the work and then just go do it. And it took me 2 times to finish. And at the end of the day, I did end up finishing. But the one thing that, I try to stress too is that how we talked about not feeling enough, that it's something I speak about often is imposter syndrome. Always be okay with starting to be a beginner because even when you're far along in something, you still might not feel like an expert or a pro. And I think people think of me like, oh, you do these endurance events. I still don't feel like I'm that person. Like I still struggle with imposter syndrome where I'll still think like, oh, I just got lucky finishing an Ironman. Like it's something that you can end up 10 years down the line with something and still like, I'll still feel uncomfortable sometimes saying like, oh, I'm a runner. And I've ran for 20 years at this point. So if people feel like that 20 years into doing something, just start with day one because you just have to relinquish all ego and just go ahead and try something.
The one thing that really resonated with me, what you were just mentioning about signs, is there was on that podcast, my gosh, I can't remember which one it was now, but if you close your eyes and you look around, you look around the room once, I'm going to tell you, okay, how many things in this room are brown? Close your eyes, tell me. And then I'm going to tell you to look for something red. And you're going to tell, or like, and there's probably not really much red, but let's say gold. There's a few things gold in here. And then you actually counted and there was loads more, there's normally loads, actually less, but you've focused on that. So you've seen loads of things that were brown.
Yeah.
But that is such a important lesson. And if you're looking for the wrong things, you will find validation in that.
Yeah.
Like anything you say right now could be supported. I love there's some social media accounts that were like basically like taking the mick by using a sales strategy to pitch the absolute wrong thing.
Yeah.
And proving how easy it is to essentially just manipulate your own mind to believe what someone said just because they've said it in such a good way.
Exactly.
And that is just so important to keep in mind. But where you feel about yourself is look at the signs that you optimize and you want to it are good for you. Like you can't surround yourself with that. You can have self-doubt, but look at the things that empower you with that. Think, this is the start of a really great thing. This is my beginning of growth. If you're in that, if you feel really low, you've got to then look that, well, there's no further down. I'm only going up, you know? There's like loads of ways to spin things mentally. And also I think there's a really important thing about what you are consuming as well.
Yes.
Like sometimes if I need an outlet to cry, like I find it hard to cry sometimes. And put any movie, or if I see someone saving something, or like an orphanage or whatever,
like yourself,
I'm like, one born every minute.
Yeah,
my lord, that was my favorite outlet. I'd put it on 5 minutes, crying my eyes out, and I just need a little emotional release, and then we're back. But it, you know, if you consume something that helps you feel a certain way, but then you could also have that in a negative way where there's algorithms involved, or if you're listening to something quite dark and quite critical, you know, maybe like Tolstoy's not the best author for you at the minute, you know, or like, there's a few kind of ways to help at least try and surround yourself with feeling lighter. And I think
100%.
Even if you're down or feeling low at certain points, like I think everyone's experienced at least shifts throughout their life where they've probably felt lower than other times, and is allowing yourself to feel lighter, not chastising yourself by just consuming negative things.
Yeah, definitely. And yeah, exactly. I heard a thing that was saying diet is not just what you eat. It's the social media you consume. It's the TV you watch. It's the people you speak to, the gossip you hear. That's part of your diet. So make sure your diet is a healthy one, because that plays just as big of a role, if not more, in a lot of cases. Exactly what you said about don't let other things really weigh you down. I think in today's age, there's just so much media that our brains were never meant to consume this much information and media all at one time. And it's thrown at us from every direction of what we're supposed to care about. And then I believe there's a lot of almost manipulation as to, oh, well, if you don't feel like this way, then you should feel shame. Or if you don't feel this way, then you're not a good person. And there's like a morality attached to how we should feel about certain information that's just being shoved down our throat. And that it's okay to focus on yourself and your inner circle. And I always say the first way to change the world is to change yourself. And then you change your inner circle. Then you change the barista who made your coffee. You make her smile, him smile. And you can have a domino effect. But just sitting there miserable, sitting on your phone, consuming awful information, and then making an Instagram post, virtue signaling that you care about something isn't always the answer, I think.
Totally. When you said about change yourself, though, but I would say that, like, say when you have an opinion on something, I think there's that moral boundary that you mentioned is really important. Like, I wouldn't condone somebody who wants to incite violence or wants to be aggressive or damage things or damage people.
Yeah.
You know, that I think is wrong. But I think if it's an opinion on something, I like implore and encourage, but that also being respectful of and hearing other people's opinions is really important.
It's so
but
important.
It builds, if everyone, like you said, around you poo-poos your opinion or creates a negative frame around you, all that does, what does it do? Cages you in.
Yeah.
Like, you then build resentment. You build self-hatred as well as external anger. You know, I think it'll be micro aggressions building up mentally that will come out at some point, or you'll have to deal with, and it'll come out in other things as well. Like, you know, it's that thing about someone, or what happened to them, you know, when somebody's like really grouchy. It's obviously not that you just took too long in the queue. It's that something else is going on over here in their life, you know?
Yeah.
So I think that's really important to be considerate about as well.
Yeah, definitely. And I think the best mindset to have is to always be open to the idea that you could be wrong, and just keeping an open mindset, because exactly like you're fed things from so many different angles. And you might be in a community that everyone disagrees with you. Then you move over here, they might agree with you, but just always be open and respectful of other people's opinions. I think it's great to disagree with people. I think it's great to have open debate. I think it's great to have different opinions on things, because that's how we learn and that's how we grow as a society. So I think that's really important, and it can be a positive of media, but there's so much that can be detrimental as well.
I love it that you and I are both like two massive empaths. Like, we're just like massively positive people, so it's easy for us to say. But like there is so much in like being the light around it. Okay, so let's put the shoe on the other foot. When you are at the lowest and you're struggling with that, how would we speak to the person that is really like finds it hard to even talk about how they feel, but they already disagree, and then they're not feeling heard and they feel like they aren't even given an opportunity to be heard, because that's the sort of environment they need to be heard in, and the way that they need to be listened to. How do we kind of think about it in that sense as well? How do you give that person the confidence and the sort of to find a bit more kind of kindness to themselves?
Yeah. I feel like just having openness about everything, that like every opinion should at least be able to be heard or spoken about. And that we should be, honestly, I wouldn't even put a parameter around it. Like, I just think that people should be allowed to have open opinions, and we can choose to disagree with somebody, but that everybody should be encouraged to formulate your own opinion, to critically think, to think about things for themselves and come to a conclusion on their own and be able to share that.
I would say you probably actually do this because you're way more like able to do these sorts of things than I would be. Journaling, I would recommend if you're an introvert who feels a little bit unseen, unheard, struggles with that internal battle where you feel a little bit caged by controversial opinions around you that you're just frustrated by. Journaling, I would say, is a really good outlet, at least to start conversations. Some people obviously then turn to social media and will write and tweet or whatever, or X. But I'd say art, journaling, and what else could they do? Things that would be interesting for an introverted person who wants to share but maybe isn't wanting to do audience work or shared audience work with friends and family and whatever, or not finding their voice.
I think maybe just making personal videos, endurance events, I think are great. That really gets you in flow state and gets you going. I think there's so many different hobbies and ways to be able to express that.
I am excited to meet the beast in me when I do an endurance event.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
I think it's the best feeling because you not only get the endorphins from doing the actual workout, but you have a chance to reflect. You have a chance to meet yourself in extremely hard moments. And I saw something that was speaking about the rule of thirds. So when you're going after a hard goal, like an Ironman or like an endurance event, you're going to have one time where you're 1/3 of the time you're lit on fire. You are motivated. You are excited. You are just can't wait to get out of bed and go on that workout. 1/3 of the time, you're going to feel just fine in the flow of things. And 1/3, you're going to hate it. And you're going to despise it. And you're going to be resentful. You have to wake up and you're going to feel not fit and gross and just like struggle with all these different things. And that if you're able to not quit during those times, then you're able to achieve the goal in the end. And that's a part that I find very interesting, is being able to sit for long periods of time in uncomfortable situations, in uncomfortable mindsets, being uncomfortable physically. If you're able to sit in those periods for extended periods of time, I think you really meet yourself at a place that you wouldn't necessarily get to know yourself otherwise, because we can think we would react to a situation in a certain way, sitting at home watching a movie, judging other people's stories, but we don't actually know how we would behave and who we would be until we put ourselves in the arena and see what we're actually made of and what we actually go to.
I bet there's some really interesting statistics about people who do an endurance event and then end up doing another one. You know what I mean? What happened with you? You had that massive hurdle that you had to cross when you did the first Ironman, right?
Yeah. But I mean, I came from a background where I'd never done Ironman, but I did endurance events. So right away, I just kind of thought I'm absolutely still, like, for me, when I set my mind to something, it's just not an option to not do it. So it didn't even cross my mind for a single second that I would just not try to do another one, not even a second. So, but I think that's because I've had a past with other endurance events and things of that nature. And I think some people just think like that.
No, I think you have to have failed at stuff. Like, there's the thing about, say, for example, right, study maths.
Yeah.
It does not mean that I could walk in and sit and do the maths exam that I did when I was at university.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? You wouldn't, just because you did something once, but you know what? You know that you could do it again.
Yeah.
Because you did it once already. So it's actually it's a self-fulfilling prophecy of like it's mentally enabling yourself by having conquered it already. So you know that the next, it's taking on that new battle. I always think about it with the maths equation, like you managed to do, like you figured out how to do like long division, like, you know, things you did at school. And then later on in life, you're like, oh, actually, I did it when I was at school, or I can look it up now and do it again. But your next thing is the next hardest thing that you still haven't done once. You know, it's there's always going to be a new hurdle. It's why everyone has to reset goals every year. You know, the people at the top of their game always want to start and set a new goal for a new thing that they can challenge themselves with, even if that's just being consistent with something. Like, one thing that really inspires me with you about the sobriety, and like, that's something that I've really never done, I would say. And I've always found, so I recently was diagnosed with ADHD, and not to say that there wasn't signs, like it's, you know, there were signs, but it kind of incited me to get checked out, I guess, or just to try and understand myself a little bit better. But one thing that comes with that is, whilst I was describing myself as a person and things that I do, things that I've done, is I'm very social, very actively social, and like having dinners and work drinks and things. I find it really fun, and I find the social really uplifting and really exciting. And then you kind of join the two together with like alcohol or like, and parties and friends, and it's so hard. Like, how was that transition going to being sober from that, and being like, did you feel like that awkward moment of having to hold something? Then you have to like, actually, no, I don't need to have the you know, people say it's like the pacifier effect, isn't it? You know?
Yeah, 100%. Well, for a lot of people today, I think it's so great. A lot of people are sober curious, or just realize that alcohol isn't benefiting them, so they're cutting it out, which is absolutely great. I'm a full alcoholic in recovery. I'm very open about that. So it was the utmost extreme difference from going from extreme partying to that. But I got sober when I was 21. So I still wanted to be on the scene socially, and I just didn't want it to inhibit the rest of my life. So I pushed myself to be in these situations. I would say for the first, honestly, 30, 50 times, I felt extremely, extremely uncomfortable. Because I also, at the point, like that was 7 years ago at this point, I was extremely uncomfortable in my skin to begin with. I was extremely uncomfortable socially, extremely uncomfortable with who I was. And that's why I loved alcohol so much, to mask that, to give me liquid confidence, to make me feel like I fit in or I could have conversations with these people. So not only was I taking away like the fun buzz and the feeling of that, but I was also taking away every sense of the being at the party that I ever knew. First of all, most of the time I would black out after a couple hours and wasn't even mentally there at all. But I had to be in the room sober was the biggest learning curve ever. And actually, I think it relates back to a lot of what you said, even about the Ironman and not giving up. I think that overcoming that makes a lot of other things. It puts into perspective a lot of other things where you realize that just because something's hard doesn't mean it's not worth doing, and doesn't mean that you're not able to get to the other side. Because I felt extremely hopeless at the time. I thought my life will never be normal again. I'll never have friends again. I'll never find someone. I'll never have a career. I'll never, like, I thought my life was over, like completely over. And you almost laugh when you get to the other side. Like, I had no idea what God was doing for me in my life at the time. And when you see it come together full circle, and now today, everything positive in my life has come from the choice that I make to be sober every morning, then you can start to just trust the process of things a lot more. But I think it's amazing that now people are reaching the point where they may say, like, I don't have a problem with it, but it just doesn't serve me all the time.
Definitely. Yeah, I mean, I'm constantly like physically, mentally reacting to you. I'm like, yes. Like, it's just, I aspire, honestly, I find it'll probably be a really, really difficult thing for me to do. I'd like to try it, and I just feel like there's been so many points in my life when I'd say that just I had an unhealthy relationship, not necessarily like with alcohol, but with, well, it was an unhealthy relationship with alcohol, but there's an element of just like being young, wild and free and fun and whatever. Yeah. And it was like at uni, I was in a crazy, like really cool society, and I was on the committee, and there was like a responsibility of being fun, having fun, like being so out there that you broke people's barriers down a bit. You know, you made you a little bit of a kind of jokester, but then it's very performative, right? And then you're out being drunk is performative, and you have to get there, and then you're doing the shots, and then you're doing everything else. And it's like, it's something that I've really been thinking about a lot more recently, is there's always an element like that anxiety. Everyone knows what, if you've drank ever in your life, you'll know what anxiety is. If I was a kid now, and they are all like videoing each other and like,
oh my God,
die, like absolute dead. Yeah. No, I would just be sober forever.
Yeah.
And I'm an extrovert anyway. I would be so just, the energy I had then as well would just be not good. So yeah, it's one of those things. I'm really, really curious. I would like to be sober curious, I think. Yeah. At least for a bit to see.
Yeah, definitely give it a try.
I find it like it quietens my mind. Yeah. Just having one drink or holding a glass of wine. Yeah. And I really enjoy it. Like, I like having a glass of wine. I love, my favorite thing to do is having a dinner party with friends, catching up, really focusing on people and like getting really caught up and connecting properly. Not just the loud music, not just the whatever. You know, I like that true connection time where you can get really deep, you can get controversial topics up, you can really go at each other a bit. It's just understanding where people stand on these things that have been going on, so that you're like, okay, where does this leave you? What have you been seeing? What have you been hearing about? And I just find it really interesting. I can't imagine like doing that sober as well, like, which is weird. Yeah. Like, and I've seen people pressure you, by the way, you know, when we go out and we're just having drinks and they're like, so what are you drinking? And you're like, oh, yeah, just get like a, you know, water or a Coke or whatever.
Yeah.
And I always think it's just so interesting that you constantly, even now, have to battle that.
Yeah. And today I'm very comfortable with it. But yeah, in the beginning, forget about it. I was so uncomfortable with it.
I'd be like Stretch Armstrong, like bend my arms. Oh, me, yeah.
But I find it so interesting, like what you said, because yeah, it is a big connector at the end of the day, but exploring, like something I try to do now is I explore basically everything we've been taught, why we were taught it, what was the intention of why, who could be benefiting from us behaving in this way. And with alcohol in particular, I think that there's obviously the alcohol companies are some of the most prosperous companies on the face of the earth, like in line with oil and whatnot. That's how successful alcohol companies are, because they fed us that the glamorous woman gets a martini, the man that made it gets the whiskey. When you're celebrating, you get champagne. When you're down and out and you just had a breakup, you go to the dive bar on the corner with your friend and you get a beer. Yeah, you have wine with your girlfriend for Galentine's Day. Like, we've been marketed at every angle that a different alcohol serves us some sort of purpose. So I think it's definitely worth exploring, at least, can I connect with people and have these same experiences without it? Because you might just be able to. And at the end, you might realize, you know what, that I don't mind having, like, I don't have a bad relationship with alcohol. I don't mind having it here and there. Or you might realize, wow, it's actually more of a connector to do it without alcohol. But I would definitely explore it for yourself and see what works best for you.
The thing that really made me think about this was because of putting myself out there, doing the Happy Hobbyist. Mm-hmm. I am proactively really trying to meet the people at the beginner class, you know, and just throwing yourself out there and introducing yourself. It's an uncomfortable thing for anyone, like as an adult, to get into someone's space, you know, and they're just going there to learn something new. They might feel nervous as well. It's this added like pressure bubble that I feel like I was in.
Yeah.
And actually, every time you end up connecting, you end up like actually sharing details with some of these people who you're like, we should stay in touch. Are you going to do another class? Because I'd love to see you here again. Yeah. And this is where the beginner community is so important, because it like, you go to these classes. There are not many classes that you go to as a beginner where they're going to be encouraging you to drink alcohol, like, unless you're doing a mixology course, which is also great. Like, go for it. That's what you want to learn. Fine. But there's a challenge for me where it's like, I'm going to say I did Muay Thai, and that, wow, do you know, getting like this close to a stranger's mouth, because you are like in a little, like, you're full blown wrestling on the floor. And I was like, this could not be more out of my comfort zone. And it was way more extreme than I was thinking as well. And I was there, I was clapping for people. I was like, we all got a big group photo at the end. And this was all what they do normally. And it was a women's only class as well, which made it so nice. And then I found out that all the people there, and some of them were amazing. Like, they literally look like pros. They'd only been going for 9 months, the longest person that was going there. So they all felt like a little new beginner community. And it's that whole rip the Band-Aid off piece where it was like, wow, there is a different way of making connections, and it feels way more authentic. The amount of people who I would like pretend to say hello to, or like, I'm like, hey, oh my God, so good to see you on a night out at a bar, and you all recognize each other. Have they ever reached out? Ever? No. Like, you know, it's like, do they actually like you? Who knows? But the people you meet at these things, it's like a real shared interest as well. And
100%.
And it's a real positive influence on each other, and giving each other warmth and giving each other confidence is I just think it's such a new thing for me to have found strength in and confidence in, actually.
No, exactly that. I think that you really need to evaluate relationships you do have through partying and think, because I have some friends that I've known way before I started to party, through partying, through now that my relationships with them have strengthened. I have some, maybe a couple I met during those years that like, yeah, we did end up having some commonalities. And then most of my strongest relationships came from meeting people without alcohol. And yeah, not saying that it's always the case, but there is that extra layer of, yeah, are we just drunk? Like, are we just having small talk in the bathroom compared to going somewhere and you both having that scare? Like, I'm sure everyone in that room experienced that feeling of when you first walked through the door and was absolutely petrified, because even I was replaying in my mind, I did actually when I first got sober as something that was like, oh, I'm going to try something new. I went to a jujitsu class and I was petrified. Yeah, I was so nervous and I made my friend talk to me up until the point I opened the door, and then I hung up the phone. And I was like, I'm going in, because I was so uncomfortable to go in. And same thing, as soon as I got there, it was an amazing experience.
You can't have that many boundaries when you're there.
Yeah.
Just like,
yeah, it really rips the Band-Aid off quickly.
Yeah, it does,
but
yeah.
You'll never know. And that's what I think about, even with failure with things like going after these big goals and trying new things, that you'll never know until you try. So why not just take the risk? And I feel like the biggest risk always ends up in the biggest reward or the biggest lesson. Mm-hmm. So you're winning either way. So I think it's so important to put yourself out there. And yeah, that's what I think is one of the many things that is so inspiring about yourself, like from the skydiving to the different activities, like you just do so many different things. And it's funny that, like how I was saying that I always thought you had to fit yourself into one box, but then you see other people, like you almost feel guilty for it yourself. Like, what's wrong with me? Why can't I fit myself into a box? Then you see someone like yourself that you are so multifaceted. You have so many things going for you. You do so many different things and you admire it. So sometimes you have to see it from the outside to realize, like, no, like that's what a woman looks like to me. So yeah, I just think it's so important to be true to ourselves and to do things like you're doing. And I can't wait to see all your ideas grow. What do you feel like are next steps for your two platforms right now?
Well, there's a lot going on. The one thing I would say is we started on this topic where it was about people's perception. And there was, I started one of my things. So when I was younger, I was very into skiing, and at university I really went for it. And then I was a ski instructor, and after that I wanted to do rock climbing when I was back in the UK. But then people kept saying to me about climbing, and I wasn't good at it, to be honest, but they were like, They were identifying me with it based on what I'd shared. Yeah. And I was like, wow, that's unbelievable. And there is a thing about, there's some things you can build confidence and strength from sharing. Mm-hmm. And it can be verbally, it can be physically on a digital platform. Mm-hmm. And what I would suggest for people, one thing that I want to get out of the next phase of things is I'm creating a community with the Happy Hobbyist. Obviously, most of the time I'm based in the UK. We're out here in the lovely, sunny Miami right now. So here some of the time as well. And there'll be events that I'll be going to, or just a beginner class, and I'm going to be posting about those. I will post them either a week before, maybe 2 weeks before I go, to invite anyone who wants to go, just so they've got a friendly face there. Mm-hmm. That's the plan for the Happy Hobbyist. So it's creating a community for people to feel comfortable to go to that thing they wanted to go to. Mm-hmm. You can message me suggestions of things that you've wanted to go to. And even if it's anything from, tarot cards, I've never done that. There's loads of stuff that you can do, but it doesn't need to be sports related is what I'm trying to say. It's skills, it's lifestyle, it's community. And that if you just don't want to go alone, let me know. That's the point of the hobbyist profile. But otherwise, in my minimum free time that I've got that is outside of that, I am focusing on Yebbo, which is because you don't start a hobby from the top, you start it from the bottom. And all it takes is one yes to get you there. And that's what Yebbo stands for. And I'm working really, really hard on getting that ready for people, and it is coming soon.
That is incredible. And again, I mean, I love the message of making one less person feel alone, giving one more person an opportunity to feel like they can do something. I always think if you have the means to help someone in any way, and most people always think financially, like you have lived these experiences, you have done these things, and taking what you've gone through and the lessons you've learned and putting that out into the world to help other people get to the place that you've taken so long to get to is just amazing. And I'm excited to try it. And yeah, thank you so much for coming on, sharing your story. And I can't wait to do this podcast again next year and see all the progress you've made. So thank you for coming on today and getting real with us.
Thank you so, so much. I honestly feel so gassed. I'm really, really happy to be here, and appreciate everyone, and appreciate that we are in a developed world, part of the world as well. So these certain things may not be as opportunist in certain places for right now, but hopefully for people that have the access and the availability and the time, you can check out my profiles, and hopefully see you next time.
Well, thank you, Caitlin. We got real.